Have you ever tried to go on a strict diet? You know the kind where you count every single calorie, weigh every leaf of spinach, and swear off sugar forever? Most people last about 4 days. Why? Because it's exhausting. It's too detailed, it's too restrictive, and the moment you slip up and eat one cookie, you feel like a failure, so you quit the whole thing and order a pizza. Budgeting is exactly the same. We've been told for decades that the secret to wealth is tracking every single cent. We're told to have a spreadsheet with 30 different categories: rent, groceries, entertainment, gas, that streaming service you forgot to cancel, and that gym membership you never use. I'm Mark Fletcher, and I'm here to tell you that if you're trying to build wealth using a traditional budget, you're making it 10 times harder than it needs to be. You're focusing on the crumbs while the loaf of bread is burning in the oven. Most people spend so much time managing their poverty that they never have the mental energy left to create their wealth. Welcome back to the Money Sprint. Today, we're throwing the spreadsheets out the window. We're moving away from micromanaging our money and moving toward macro-managing our future. We're going to talk about the 3-bucket strategy. This isn't just a way to save money. It's a way to reorganize your entire brain's relationship with capital. This is the system used by some of the most successful investors and entrepreneurs I've ever met. It's not about restriction. It's about allocation. It's about creating a system so simple that you can manage your entire financial life in less than 5 minutes a month. When you simplify your money, you reduce your stress. When you reduce your stress, you make better decisions. And when you make better decisions, you win the sprint. Think about your money like water. Right now, most people have their money flowing into a dozen different cups. Some cups are full, some are empty, and half of them have holes in the bottom. You're constantly running around trying to fill the cups, but you're never making any real progress. You're exhausted, and at the end of the day, you're still thirsty. The 3-bucket strategy consolidates everything. We are going to build 3 massive reinforced containers: the safety bucket, the growth bucket, and the sprint bucket. Each bucket has a specific job. One protects you, one builds for you, and one changes your life. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build these buckets, the exact math behind them, and how to know when a bucket is full so you can move on to the next level. If you've ever felt like you're working hard but your bank account is standing still, this is the missing piece of the puzzle. Let's build your foundation. Let's talk about the most boring but most important bucket in your life: the safety bucket. Most people think of an emergency fund as a rainy day fund. I want you to think of it as oxygen. Without oxygen, you can't think. You can't plan. You can't sprint. You are in survival mode. If you are living paycheck to paycheck, you are financially suffocating. Every time your car makes a weird noise or your boss looks at you the wrong way, your heart rate spikes. You make decisions based on fear, not opportunity. You take the safe job even if it's a dead end because you can't afford to miss a single Friday deposit. You stay in a bad living situation or a toxic work environment because the gap between your paycheck and your bills is zero. The safety bucket is designed to kill that fear once and for all. The rule for the safety bucket is simple: liquidity is king. This isn't where we look for high returns. We don't care if this money grows. In fact, in terms of wealth velocity, this is your slowest bucket. This is money that sits in a high-yield savings account where you can grab it in 30 seconds if the world catches on fire. Now, how much actually goes in here? The standard financial guru advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses. But since this is a sprint, I want you to look at it differently. I want you to find your sleep number. Your sleep number is the specific amount of cash that needs to be in your bank account for you to sleep like a baby at night, knowing that if you lost your job tomorrow, you would be totally fine for a while. For some people, that number is $5,000. For a father of three with a mortgage, that number might be $50,000. Don't let anyone else tell you what your safety bucket should look like. It's personal. It's your psychological fortress. If your sleep number is $20,000 and you only have $2,000, your brain is currently in red alert mode. You are literally incapable of making good long-term investment decisions because your biology is focused on surviving the next 30 days. Imagine the scenario. It's Monday morning. Your water heater explodes, your car needs new tires, and your dental insurance just told you they won't cover that root canal you desperately need. For the average person, this is a life-altering catastrophe. They have to put it on a credit card at 24% interest. They have to skip meals. They have to borrow money from family. But for the person with a full safety bucket, this is just an inconvenience. You call the plumber, you buy the tires, you pay the dentist, and you go back to sleep. That shift from catastrophe to inconvenience is the absolute first step to becoming wealthy. You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. You need the concrete foundation of the safety bucket. Here is my best tip for filling this bucket. Automate the drip. Don't wait until the end of the month to see what's left. If you wait to see what's left, the answer will always be nothing. The world is too good at taking your money. Amazon, Netflix, and your local grocery store are all designed to make sure your balance hits zero by the end of the month. Set up an automatic transfer the day your paycheck hits, even if it's only $20 or $50. You need to prove to your brain that you are taking care of yourself first. You are the most important bill you have to pay. Once this bucket hits your sleep number, we do something very important. We stop filling it. This is a huge mistake I see people make. They get addicted to the safety. They have $100,000 sitting in a bank account earning 4% while inflation is at 5%. They are technically losing money every single day, but they feel safe. That's not safety. That's a slow-motion robbery. When bucket number 1 is full, the tap shuts off, and the overflow goes directly into bucket number 2. Now we're moving from survival to building. Welcome to the growth bucket. If the safety bucket is your oxygen, the growth bucket is your garden. You aren't meant to eat the seeds you put in here. You are meant to plant them, water them, and let them grow into massive trees that will eventually produce fruit for the rest of your life. This is where the power of compounding lives, the thing Albert Einstein called the eighth wonder of the world. The growth bucket is for long-term, boring investments. We're talking about low-cost index funds, total market ETFs, and high-quality real estate. This is the money you are investing for the version of you that is 10, 20, or 30 years older. Most people fail in this bucket because they try to be too smart. They see a headline about a new tech stock or a meme coin, and they think, this is my chance. They treat their growth bucket like a casino. But the growth bucket isn't a casino, it's a forest. You don't go out and dig up your oak tree every week to see if the roots are growing. You just let it sit. The philosophy here is set it and forget it. Think of this bucket as a one-way street. Money goes in, but it never comes out. Not for a new car. Not for a vacation. Not even for a wedding or a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This money is dead to you. You have to mentally pretend it doesn't exist. Why is this so vital? Let's look at the math, because the math doesn't lie. If you invest $500 a month into a growth bucket, let's say a simple S&P 500 index fund, and you get an average 8% return, which is the historical average, in 30 years you have over $700,000. But here is the part that will blow your mind. Out of that $700,000, you only actually put in about 180K of your own money. The other $500,000 was created out of thin air by the bucket itself. Time did the heavy lifting for you. But most people never get to see that $500,000 gift. Why? Because they leak their bucket. They see the market go down 10%, they get scared and they pull the money out. Or they decide they really need a new SUV, so they borrow from their future self. Every time you take money out of the growth bucket, you aren't just taking out the cash, you are killing the future offspring of that cash. You are chopping down a sapling before it can become a tree. The strategy for bucket number 2 is dollar cost averaging. You don't care if the stock market is at an all-time high or an all-time low. You don't care who the president is. You don't care about the news headlines. You just keep pouring your overflow from the safety bucket into the growth bucket every single month like clockwork. This is where you build quiet wealth. It's the kind of wealth that doesn't scream. It's not flashy. It doesn't make for a great Instagram post. It's just a number on a screen that grows while you sleep, while you're on vacation, and while you're working. It's the mathematical certainty of freedom. But here is the honest truth. The growth bucket is slow. If you start with 0 today, it takes a long time for compounding to get exciting. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And most of us don't want to wait until we're 65 years old to start living the life we want. We want to be able to travel, to give back, and to build things while we still have our health and our energy. That is why we need the third bucket. The bucket that traditional financial advisors are usually too scared to talk about because it involves risk. But for those of us in the sprint, this is the most important bucket of all. Welcome to the sprint bucket. If bucket number 1 is oxygen and bucket number 2 is your garden, bucket number 3 is your rocket fuel. This bucket is designed for high-velocity, high-reward opportunities. This is the money you use to bet on the most important asset you own, yourself. We've been conditioned to believe that risk is a bad word, but uncalculated risk is what's actually bad. Putting your life savings on a single color at the roulette table is bad risk. But investing in a skill that can double your income? That is the smartest risk you can ever take. The sprint bucket is where you fund your side hustles. It's where you buy the AI tools that can automate your business. It's where you pay for the coaching or the courses that teach you a high-value skill, like digital marketing, coding, or content creation. It's where you invest the seed money for that business idea you've been dreaming about at your desk for the last 5 years. The rule for the sprint bucket is asymmetric upside. This is a fancy way of saying you want to put money into things where the downside is capped, but the upside is infinite. Let's look at a relatable scenario. Imagine you take $2,000 from your sprint bucket. You use it to hire a scriptwriter and an editor to help you launch a faceless YouTube channel. What is the downside? You lose $2,000 and a few months of your spare time. Is it a bummer? Yes. But are you ruined? No. Your safety bucket is still full, so you can still pay your rent. Your growth bucket is still compounding in the background, so your retirement is still on track. You took a hit, but you're still standing. Now, what is the upside? That channel takes off. It starts generating $3,000, $5,000, or even $10,000 a month in ad revenue and sponsorships. You've just created an asset that is worth more than your entire year's salary at your day job. You've just increased your wealth velocity by 1,000%. That is asymmetric upside. You risked a fixed amount of money for an unfixed amount of gain. This is the bucket that allows you to quit your job. Bucket number 2, the growth bucket, won't let you quit your job for 30 years. But bucket number 3, the sprint bucket, can let you quit your job in 18 months. However, I have to give you a serious warning. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot put money in the sprint bucket until buckets 1 and 2 are being taken care of. I see this all the time on the internet. People take their last $1,000, money they need for rent, and they sprint into a high-risk crypto trade or a get-rich-quick scheme. That isn't sprinting, that's gambling. And when you gamble with your survival money, your brain is under too much pressure to make good decisions. You will panic. You will sell at the wrong time. You will make mistakes. The 3-bucket strategy is about the order of operations. First, you secure the foundation with the safety bucket. Second, you automate the future with the growth bucket. And then, and only then, do you aggressively attack the present with the sprint bucket. When you have money in your sprint bucket, you feel bold. You can afford to try 3 different business ideas. If 2 of them fail and 1 of them works, you win the entire game. My philosophy on this is simple. Use the incredible AI tools we have today to keep the costs of your sprints low. You don't need to rent an office or hire a huge team anymore. You can run a $1 million business from a laptop. This allows you to take more shots on goal. And the more shots you take, the more likely you are to hit the jackpot. So, how do we actually move the money between these buckets in our day-to-day lives? We use something called the Overflow Rule. Imagine the 3 buckets are stacked vertically, one on top of the other. At the very top, you have your income, your paycheck, your side hustle money, whatever it is. That income pours into the first bucket, safety. As long as that safety bucket isn't at your sleep number, 100% of your extra money stays right there. You don't invest. You don't start a business, you just get safe. Once that bucket is full, once you see that number in your bank account and you feel that sense of peace, the water naturally starts spilling over the edges. It has nowhere else to go but down into the second bucket, growth. Now, you decide on a target for your growth bucket. Maybe it's 15% of your total income. You set up that automated transfer to your index fund. But what happens if you have a really great month? What if you get a tax refund, or a bonus, or you sell something on eBay? That extra money fills your 15% growth target, and then it spills over again into the third and final bucket, the sprint. This creates a pressure valve for your financial life. If you have a bad month, maybe your hours get cut or you have an unexpected bill, the water might only fill the safety bucket. That's okay. You're protected. The system is working. You don't have to feel guilty about not investing that month because your foundation is the priority. But when things are going well, the system automatically directs that excess energy into the things that can change your life. It prevents lifestyle creep. Lifestyle creep is the silent killer of wealth. It's what happens when you get a $500 raise and you immediately decide you can afford a $500 more expensive car payment. Your buckets never fill because you keep making the buckets bigger every time you get more water. The overflow rule stops that. Your safety bucket has a fixed size. Your growth bucket has a fixed target. Anything extra becomes fuel for your freedom. This system is anti-fragile. In economics, something is anti-fragile if it actually gets stronger when there is stress or volatility. Because you have these buckets, you can look at a market crash or an economic downturn and not panic. You might even see it as an opportunity to move more water into your sprint bucket while assets are cheap. To wrap this up, let's look at two different versions of the same guy. Let's call them Traditional Mark and Sprint Mark. Traditional Mark makes $5,000 a month. He spends $4,500 on his lifestyle. He tries to save the $500 that's left. He has it spread across a savings account, a few random stocks he heard about on Reddit, and he's also trying to pay off a credit card. When his car breaks down, he has to sell his stocks at a loss to pay for the repair. He's back to zero. He feels like he's running in place. He's exhausted, frustrated, and he feels like the system is rigged against him. He's been trying to save for 5 years, and his net worth is still basically zero. Now let's look at Sprint Mark. He makes the same $5,000, but he uses the 3-bucket strategy. Phase 1. He lives a little leaner for 6 months until his safety bucket hits his sleep number of $10,000. He feels a weight lift off his shoulders. Phase 2. He automates $750 a month into his growth bucket. He stops looking at the stock market. He knows the garden is growing. Phase 3. He has an extra $300 a month that overflows into his Sprint bucket. After 6 months, he has $1,800. He uses that money to buy a high-end AI subscription and takes a course on automated content creation. By the end of the year, Sprint Mark has a safe foundation, a growing retirement fund, and a new skill that is starting to bring in an extra $1,000 a month. That extra $1,000 flows straight through bucket 1 and 2 and hits bucket 3 with massive force. Now he can fund even bigger sprints. Within 3 years, Sprint Mark is free. Traditional Mark is still complaining about the price of gas. Same income, same guy, different system. The 3-bucket strategy works because it respects the laws of physics. You need a foundation before you can have growth, and you need growth before you can have a rocket ship. Most people live their lives without any buckets at all. They just have a puddle on the floor. They step in it, it splashes, and it's gone. They wonder where the money went at the end of every month. I want you to start today. You don't need to be rich to start. You just need to be organized. Today, I want you to do 3 things. 1. Identify your sleep number. Write it down on a piece of paper and put it where you can see it. That is your first destination. 2. Open a high-yield savings account that is separate from your main bank. That is your safety bucket. 3. Decide what your first sprint is going to be. What is the one skill or business you would bet on if you knew you couldn't fail? Money isn't complicated. We've just been taught by people who want to keep us confused so they can charge us fees. But when you break it down into these 3 containers, the path to $1 million becomes a simple matter of plumbing. It's just about moving the water into the right buckets. I'm Mark Fletcher. This is the Money Sprint. Your first bucket is waiting. I'll see you at the finish line.